June 2014, WagerTalk joined Twitter. August 2014, Prez loaded the first ever picks at WagerTalk. September 2014, Marco D'Angelo and Gianni the Greek filmed the first ever video for WagerTalk TV. Fast forward to today, and we now have over 58,000 Twitter followers, 110,000 subscribers on YouTube, and have become the premier brand in sports betting. So thank you. We truly appreciate everyone who has supported this amazing journey. And on Thursday, January 19th, at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, all daily picks packages that day will be priced at $11, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35. And all one-day all access, normally priced at $39, will be cut in half and priced at only $19. No coupons will be needed. All handicappers at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo are included in Customer Appreciation Day, and discounts will go live at midnight Wednesday, January 18th.
Thursday, January 19th. This is Wager Talk Today, and we are live every Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on Wager Talk TV. And watch us on the downloadable Wager Talk TV app for your favorite mobile device. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. It's a Prez-free zone this week, and that's my co-host, Teddy Covers, as always. And Teddy, it's a very special Thursday edition because it is Customer Appreciation Day at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. Quite simply, every best bet that is posted right now is $11, whether it's a Thursday game or not. The advanced NFL games, get those for $11 as well. And even better, if you want a full card from any capper today, a one-day all-access pass is cut in half, just $19. Normally $39, it's more than half, just $19. So once again, single plays for $11, full card for $19, all games, including Thursday best bets and advanced NFL games, just $11. Because, Teddy, it is Customer Appreciation Thursday at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. With that said, a great Thursday show here on Wager Talk Today. As always, Teddy, what we got going on?
Yeah, I mean, Customer Appreciation Day. Listen, customers, we appreciate you. By all means, we couldn't do any of this stuff without your support. Thank you. And again, take advantage of these bargain price packages on Thursday. Everything on the site. $11, full day all access, just $19. Let's set up today's show. We're going to start out with Meghan Payton, who went 3-0 with her props on Monday night. See if she can do it again. She's going to talk Travis Etienne, Dallas Goedert, Tony Pollard, and Dawson Knox for props in NFL action this weekend. Bryan Power is going to join us next. He's going to talk some college hoops tonight, Indiana and Illinois, as well as the Giants and Eagles in NFL divisional round action. My big game breakdown, the other Saturday game, the Jaguars and the Chiefs in divisional round action. And Tony Finn's going to close out the show. He's going to talk some college hoops tonight, Purdue and Minnesota, and some NBA, the 76ers and the Trailblazers. So it is a loaded Thursday edition. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, and don't forget college basketball show at 2 o'clock Eastern, NBA tip-off show also at 4:15 Eastern. So a lot of basketball talk on the network today on Thursday, but we are going to start off with some NFL playoff talk with Meghan Payton, who's been known to appear on the NBA tip-off show as a guest host as well from time to time. And Meghan, we did the NBA show Monday, and had I known that you're going to sweep those NFL props, I would have told the viewers definitely go back and watch, but you did sweep them on the Wager Talk Today show Monday as well. So props on your props, 3-0 sweep on the Monday night game between the Cowboys and Bucks. But now we got to move ahead to the divisional round. First game goes this Saturday at 4:30 Eastern, Jacksonville and Kansas City. Not a surprise the networks put the Jags on the early game. They're not getting much respect. Do you see a prop in this game that we can take advantage of?
And who knows where else the rest of the week takes us. But yeah, I have a few different props that I'm going to eye for the divisional round of NFL playoffs. Let's start with that Jags-Chiefs game. I'm looking at running back Travis Etienne over 17.5 receiving yards. Etienne's been fantastic this season, and he's averaging 10 yards per reception, which is absolutely wild. Now, the reason 18.5 is the line is because he's not getting a ton of receptions. In fact, this number didn't hit last week. But you have to think about how Etienne gets yards. It's by force, it's by speed, and he's going to be going up against a Chiefs defense that's the worst in the league as far as running backs in receptions. The Chiefs are giving up 29 receiving yards to running backs, which is the league's worst. I like ETN to hit over this number. He did hit over this. He had 28 receiving yards the last time that he took on Kansas City. So take 18.5 over for Travis Etienne receiving yards. All right, let's switch over to Dallas let's switch over first before we go to Giants. Let's go to Giants at Eagles. I've got tight end Dallas Goedert over 48.5 receiving yards. He's been averaging 58 yards per game. So this line feels a little bit low, and I expect it to actually go up. So I would jump on this now. Goddard's a kind of player where you can find creative ways for him to get the ball and just find ways for him to get it in his hands. The Giants are really struggling with tight ends this year. I mean, you look at what happened against the Vikings last week. TJ Hawkinson, the Vikings top tight end, had over 100 receiving yards last week. PFF has a coverage grade on defenses and their coverage with certain positions. And you look at the Giants coverage grade against tight ends, it's second to last in the league. Dallas Goedert, ever since he's been back healthy, he's been doing well. I like over 48.5 receiving yards for Dallas Goedert. All right, moving on to Cowboys now. We're looking at Cowboys at Niners. I'm going to run it back with the exact same prop bet that we took last week, and that is over 46.5 rushing yards for running back Tony Pollard. This line is the exact same. And I said this last week, Tony Pollard's an explosive player. I expected him to have a big performance. He did. He had 77 rushing yards against the Bucs. And it will be harder this week. Like, without a doubt, they're going to be going up against a Niners run defense that's second in the league. Having said that, Tony Pollard is the RB1. You watched him and Ezekiel Elliott last week, and there's a gap there. Like, Tony Pollard is the guy. And as great as San Francisco is at stopping the run, you still think about what the Seahawks did last week, and Kenneth Walker rushed for over 60 yards. Tony Pollard is a much better running back as far as yards after contact, in my opinion, than Kenneth Walker. So I'm going to take over 46.5 rushing yards for Tony Pollard. All right, last one. We're running this one back again because the anytime touchdown props for me have been doing really well. So we're going to run back tight end Dawson Knox anytime touchdown. This time you can't get it at plus 260, though. It's plus 215. I really like this, though. He's had a touchdown in 5 consecutive games. By the way, he almost had his second touchdown last week, depending on what we're calling a catch. Having said that, he did hit the anytime touchdown last week at plus 260. I like him to do this again up against a Bengals team. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. So expect points up on the board and expect Dawson Knox anytime touchdown. Grab it now at plus 215.
Yeah, if Knox would have, if the second touchdown catch would have been ruled a catch, Knox, that game would have been a blowout. There was the difference between 17-0 and 21-0 at the time. Miami certainly showed their mettle in rallying from behind in that one. I want to ask you about Dallas Goedert, because this is a really interesting handicap for me. Mm-hmm. Here's Philly as a big favorite on Saturday night. In theory, if Philly is going to win and cover, they're not going to be throwing the football. They're going to be running the football in this ballgame. The Giants' defensive game plan last week was incredible, because they shut down Justin Jefferson. And their whole defensive game plan was shut down Jefferson, make anybody else beat us. And it worked in that sense, in the sense of other guys beat them. Are they going to have that same defensive game plan this week against Smith and Brown? Because it's not like Phillies, if you stop one guy, you're going to stop the offense like you will in Minnesota. So I see a different defensive game plan on the one side, and I see a team as a favorite likely to run the football if they're winning and covering in the second half on the other side. That's the only one of your 4 props that stands out to me that I got a bunch of questions about. So can you alleviate my concerns?
Yes, I'll further elaborate, Teddy, because you're right. It's not going to be the same defensive game plan as it was against the Vikings last week. They just had to shut down Justin Jefferson. But when you're going up against an Eagles team that's a little bit more complete, we'll say, you've got to stop Jalen Hurts from running the ball. You've got to stop Miles Sanders. You've got to stop all of their receivers and A.J. Brown and Smith. I just think that you look at specifically what the Giants have done against tight ends, and that stat alone is what's alarming to me. I'm not doubting that they're going to run the ball a ton and that Jalen Hurts is going to rush for over 50 yards or something like that. But at the end of the day, when you give up over 100 receiving yards to tight ends, when PFF has your coverage grade as the second to worst in the league when it comes to blocking and covering tight ends, I see a 46.5 line and I say, I don't know what your defensive plan is, but the over is going to hit there, especially for a tight end that's averaging over 58 yards per game.
She knows her NFL football, to say the least, because she swept these props on Monday Night Football. Perfect 3-0 sweep, and now we're looking to do it, Megan, in the divisional round. 4 games, 4 props. You covered all 4 games for Saturday and Sunday. Let's have a 4-0 sweep here for this weekend. And Megan, let people know where they can find more football information from you. As I mentioned, you often guest host NBA tip-off here at 4:15 Eastern on weekdays, but also do a lot of football talk as well this time of year. Where can people find you?
Absolutely. Well, we've got a new show ramping up here at WagerTalk TV. It's in the works right now, but our first show is actually going to be live today. We're looking at a 6 p.m. Eastern airtime, so make sure you guys are on the YouTube channel or on the WagerTalk TV app. And I'm sure we'll be on more NBA shows, as well as you can check out my new podcast, Payton's Play, on my own Twitter and my own YouTube channel. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Let's go cash some bets here for a divisional round of playoffs.
Great seeing you, Megan. And once again, that's an excellent reason to not only hit subscribe, but hit the bell when you hit subscribe for instant alerts. When that new show goes live, you'll be the first one to know, and you can watch it instantly here on WagerTalk TV. And Teddy, some great NFL talk there for this weekend. We're going to get to Bryan Power in a moment. Going to look at some college basketball for tonight. Also, a little more NFL advanced looks. Also, Tony Finn coming up in a little bit with some college and pro basketball for tonight. But before we do so, want to know what you learned in the world of sports betting.
Oh, it's your classic Capper's Lament right here for a Wednesday night. I was a $2 Tuesday Capper, and there were 4 NBA games, not much to choose from. I got line value with the Clippers. I knew they were interested in the game. It was a 1-point game on the 4th. No complaints, right where I want to be. And then Philly played like a championship team down the stretch, and LA not so much. It was a loser. When you're a $2 Tuesday Capper, you sell $1 million. I sold like 900 of those plays, and everybody lost. So what happens last night, the night after? 4-0 sweep, all right sides, pretty much rocking chair games. You know, the Hawks won straight up at Dallas as dogs. The Thunder blew out the Pacers. That game was over early. The Heat blew out the Pelicans. That game was over early. St. Louis annihilated Loyola by 17. Hell, even the free play big game breakdown on Houston-Charlotte over one. Kind of bad beat style for the under. They scored 29 points in the last 3 minutes of that game. I brought it home. And the missed free throws worked in our favor to get that game over the total. It truly was a perfect night last night. Easy peasy. How many sales? Not 900, I can tell you that. So, in the immortal words of Kurt Vonnegut, I don't know if you, we got the readers out there, but, and so it goes. That's the life of a capper. Back at it today.
Yeah, but Teddy, it's a big picture takeaway from this is actually something really worth talking about. And you can't try to time the markets. You know, a lot of analogies I use between the financial markets and the sports betting markets, right? You always hear people say, don't try to time the market, right? You just invest in the S&P, the buy and hold strategy. Don't totally agree with that, by the way. I don't like buy and hope. There are some little intricacies where you can time the market. But what I'm saying is that sports bettors are fickle, right? And, you know, I do a lot of the public info. I'll have my NFL Fade the Public video tomorrow. And the public is fickle. I always say that short-term memory. And you're running really hot. You're the $2 capper. That's what happens for everyone basically at WagerTalk.com. It's usually one of the hottest cappers on the site. And then everybody jumps on. They've missed probably a week plus of winners. And then, you know, maybe they win, maybe they don't that one play. And then, like you said, everyone jumps back off and you go forward. It just, some people can't get out of their own way. And there's a reason a lot of people never win long-term, even when you give them long-term winning advice. And you just have to take a long-term approach. And hey, look, the $19 all access today is a great deal. I recommend people get that for numerous cappers, get all their best bets. But even one day, you know, isn't a long-term approach. 1 week is not a long-term approach. You really have to play consistently day in and day out. And what you just said there, Teddy, is a perfect example. Everyone gets excited for one play, and many of them were not back on as you go 4-0 last night.
And again, and so it goes. You know, that's the nature of what we do. And I understand the marketplace for those out there. But as we always talk about here on Wager Talk Today, you know, never buy a play. That's my opinion. It's not, you know, buy a package. You know, get on board with someone and ride them. If there's someone that you trust, someone that you believe in, that's the person to ride. So that being said, 4-0 last night, I can't complain. But from a sales perspective, not like Tuesday. I'll leave it at that.
And also say this real quick. It doesn't mean Teddy's going to not win tonight just because he went 4-0 last night. You can't take that mindset. And if anything, I know Teddy covers pretty well. He's gone on some monster streaks over the years. I remember that baseball streak he had about a decade ago. What was it, like 40-12? I think he had one recently just a year or two ago. These daily sports, it's not a coincidence when cappers go on streaks because they start feeling it. They're tuned in. They know the teams. They know situations. Baseball and basketball are great sports to ride cappers when they're running well. Bryan Power knows all about that. Brian's been doing this for a while as well. He's made a lot of money in sports betting. And Brian, always look forward to talking some hoops with you. We're going to do that here and then look at an advanced NFL game. But let's talk some college basketball. A Big Ten battle tonight between Indiana and Illinois. Brian, what are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve. Teddy, always nice to see you. Illinois, Indiana here. So the Illini, they have won 4 straight. They have done so by an average of almost 16 points per game. Those of you who are familiar with seeing me on these videos or just follow my plays in general probably know what I'm going to do here. I am going to step in front of that train because it sounds like a good time for me to play against the Fighting Illini because it's been a somewhat dramatic turnaround for this team. They were 3-4 straight up their previous 7 games. And over the course of this 4-game win streak, we've seen them trail at the half. That was against Michigan State last Friday. And 2 of the other wins came against what I think is fair to say are the 2 weakest teams in the Big Ten, Nebraska and Minnesota, the other being at home against an overrated Wisconsin team that it just so happens Indiana blew out over the weekend. Now, the Hoosiers, they failed to cover 7 in a row prior to that win over Wisconsin, including 3 straight-up losses in conference play. But 2 of those 3 Big Ten losses were by a total of 3 points. And in one of them, they blew a 20-point lead at Iowa. So I think this is buy low, sell high for me. Even off the win over Wisconsin, we're getting a discount on the Hoosiers, in my opinion. Let's not forget, they beat Xavier earlier this year. I had a nice win against Xavier last night with the poll, by the way, on an average day. But this is the most points Indiana's gotten in a game all season, even more than when they visited Kansas. Now, they got blown out in Lawrence, but I don't think Illinois should be a bigger favorite than Kansas was. They're the rightful favorites. But to me, these teams are pretty even, and I think this number should be lower. So I am taking the points here on Thursday night in Big Ten action with Indiana.
So it was an interesting scenario that you said there. You said you're buying low on the Hoosiers right now. You know, they had a little bit of struggles, and they got that win over Wisconsin, but the markets aren't fully respecting them then. Indiana's covered 1 point spread in the last month. They're 1-7 ATS. They've been a falling knife. You look at them on the road, blown out at Penn State, blown out at Rutgers, blown out at Kansas, losing to Iowa when Iowa couldn't beat anyone. Isn't Indiana an overvalued commodity, not an undervalued commodity? And isn't Illinois a team that went through all kinds of midseason struggles? I mean, they were all Brad Underwood, they were calling for his head. And now they've kind of righted the ship. You know, they were a bet against team for me a month ago. Right now, the Illini look every bit as good as they were supposed to be. Isn't this a bet on team right now? So I guess I got a different take on these 2 teams than you do right now. I want to be betting against Indiana and on Illinois, not the other way around.
I don't know. I think we're about ready to do a 180. I mean, it's funny because like what you just said with Illinois, let's talk about it. You said a month ago you were looking to bet against this team. Well, what's happened now? They've won 4 in a row by an average of 16 points per game. Indiana, yeah, they've struggled against the spread, but like I said, they've been close. I think that's not an accurate reflection of where this team was at. You know, in my power rankings, I've got these teams pretty close. They're pretty close in Ken Palm, if you would prefer to listen to Mr. Pomeroy than myself. Indiana's top 30 team in offensive efficiency, and the road team in this Big Ten rivalry has covered 6 of 7 meetings. Obviously, some different teams, different players involved there. And 3 of the last 5 overall have been decided by 4 points or less. Just to me, Teddy, everything about this screams close game. I'm not saying Indiana goes to Champaign-Urbana and gets the win. I'm saying that they will at least cover the spread.
Yeah, when Brian sent this over last night's game to talk about, it was +7. It has dropped to 6.5 in most spots today. I even saw one of these sharp leading indicator international books at 6 earlier. So it does look like a little sharp action maybe came in on Indiana early in the morning overnight, and that's where Bryan Power is looking as well. Brian, we've talked some NFL playoff props, but I want to look at an actual game from a side or totals perspective here. And one that I think is interesting is Teddy covers New York Giants against our producer Dan's Philadelphia Eagles on Saturday night. And what's interesting about this game to me, first of all, is that it's hovering. It's solid 7.5, right? And 7, a very key number. Do you think the line's going to move? I'm going to have my NFL Fade the Public video up later, probably a little early this week on Friday. From what I'm seeing right now, I mentioned this yesterday, Giants are looking like a very public dog. So I guess, first of all, what do you like in this game? And second of all, if you like the Giants, you probably grab it now. If you like the Eagles, do you try to wait and get a -7? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'll answer that here at the end, Steve, because I'm also kind of waiting to see what I want to do with the Eagles. But let's talk about the matchup here first, officially, with what I want to do with the Eagles here. I do like them in this matchup. Guys, I'm not the first person in the world to make this case, but I am a firm believer that a team's scoring differential is far more instructive when it comes to predicting future outcomes than actual win-loss record. Goes for any sport. And sure enough, here in the NFL, we enter the division round of the playoffs. The top 7 teams in regular season point differential are all still alive. The only reason it's not top 8 is because Baltimore, who was number 8, lost to Cincinnati, who was number 6. And which of the 8 teams still alive is the outlier in our point differential discussion? That would be the Giants, who were 15th in regular season point differential. I teased them last week against the Vikings, so I've got some respect for them as well. But that was a very favorable matchup, I thought, with Minnesota. They should have been very happy to have gotten them in the wild card round. Minnesota, in my opinion, probably the worst double-digit win team in league history. We're talking about bottom 6 in DVOA this year. They were 16th in point differential despite winning 13 games. A massive regression team for next season. I can just tell you right now, they'll be number 1 with a bullet on that list when we're talking about 2023, 2024 NFL. Something else the Vikings and Giants had in common, besides mediocre year-to-date point differentials, is the fact that both were outgained in yards per play over the course of the season. I think that's another quality predictive metric. The only other playoff teams with a negative yards per play differential were the Chargers and Bucks. They're both out of here, obviously. So really, it boils down to this. I don't think there is any argument that the Giants aren't the worst of the 8 remaining playoff teams. I think it's pretty clear, in my view. The Eagles, they're top 4. When you look at yards per play differential, point differential, they've only lost once when Jalen Hurts starts. Yes, we have some injury concerns on the Philly side, but they have a much better defense. Minnesota's defense was just abhorrent last week. Top 5 in EPA for the Eagles on the defensive side of the ball. And now to answer your question, Steve, what I'm looking at here is, do I tease the Eagles? And we talked about this actually with Jacksonville, who was an underdog last week on the program. Do we tease or just take, or do we just play the point spread? I am still trying to figure that out, whether I'm interested to see where the number goes, but I am with you. I think the Giants are a very public dog. There's no doubt in my mind the Eagles are advancing to the NFC Championship game here. I'm just trying to figure out, do I tease or do I lay? Because 7.5 isn't a great number to lay, but at the same time, I am thinking about it.
So last year, the first year with the 17-game NFL season, the first year we only had one team get a bye week instead of 2. And both number 1 seeds lost straight up last year in this round of the postseason. Jalen Hurts was really banged up in the season finale. And the quotes from Hurts are, "Oh, I'm fine. But that guy couldn't run. He couldn't throw 2 weeks ago. All right. So we have a recent track record of the number 1 seeds going down and the bye week being a disadvantage. And we have a potential banged up QB on the team that has to lay 7.5 here. Talk to me about those 2 particular concerns, because they're concerns enough to me that I'm not playing Philly on Saturday.
Okay, let's talk about the 2 number 1 seeds last year. If memory serves me correct, that was Tennessee and Green Bay. Were those the 2 number 1 seeds last year? Okay. The metrics that I just talked about were yards per play differential, point differential. Tennessee and Green Bay, I thought, were fraud number 1 seeds last year, to put it blunt. Whereas the Eagles, to me, are a legit number 1 seed. So I wasn't surprised at all to see those 2 number 1 seeds go down last year, especially Tennessee. What were they doing? No one believed they were the best team in the NFC last year, outside of Nashville, I would say. As far as the Hurts injury, yeah, it is a concern. I will point to the Week 18 matchup where the Eagles just needed to do enough to win to secure home field advantage for this spot. They were up 19-0. They got backdoored when it was apparent they could stop trying at that point. And don't forget, they won 48-22 in the first meeting. So that's 67-22. They had outscored the Giants over the course of about 6.5 quarters. I just think they're the far superior team here, Teddy. I know Brian Daboll is a great head coach. What a fantastic hire that was for the G-men. But I don't think he is enough to get his team across the finish line in this one. The Eagles will win on Saturday.
Yeah, Brian, it's interesting to talk about those number one seeds last year. I mean, the Sagrian ratings, I use a much more complex power rating system. I think we all do. But the Sagrians are a good starting point, for the average bettor, and it's something we can kind of talk about. We talked about strength of schedule earlier this week using the Sagrians. But if you look at last year, the final rankings, the predictor ranking, which is closest to the point spread, Green Bay finished 7th, Tennessee finished 12th last year in the Sagrians. So, like you're saying, not really true number ones probably.
And what did they do this year, those two teams? Didn't make the playoffs.
Right, exactly. That was the other point. Neither one made the playoffs even. Exactly. Yeah. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have it in front of me, but I think Minnesota last year, didn't they lose more one-possession games than anybody? And then this year they won like 7 or so. So interesting
11.
point as well about you talking about them having a target next year to be a reversal team again.
Yeah.
Brian, great stuff. Look forward to seeing more basketball shows throughout the week, and also let people know what you got going on at WagerTalk.com, because once again, it is Customer Appreciation Thursday. One time this year that you can get all best bets on a Thursday for $11, all inclusive packages for just $19. What do you have going on?
Yeah, it sure is Customer Appreciation today. And thanks again, Steve and Teddy, for having me on. 5% NFL play posted this morning. We have won 5 straight 5% plays in all sports going back to the end of last year. The first one was a miracle comeback with the Kansas Jayhawks against Arkansas in the bowl games. But since then, the last 4 have all been wire-to-wire covers, including Baltimore on Sunday against Cincinnati. So this 5% play is set to go all ready for the weekend in the NFL as we look to make it 6 straight max bet winners across all sports.
That's Bryan Power, and as you can tell, he puts the work in. He knows his stuff. Bryan Power, WagerTalk.com, and once again, get those best bets today for just $11 on Thursday, Customer Appreciation Day. Teddy, 30-second commercial break, and we're going to talk some more NFL playoffs. You're going to look at that other game on Saturday, Jags and Chiefs, and the big game breakdown in 30 seconds.
June 2014, WagerTalk joined Twitter. August 2014, Prez loaded the first ever picks at WagerTalk. September 2014, Marco D'Angelo and Gianni the Greek filmed the first ever video for WagerTalk TV. Fast forward to today, and we now have over 58,000 Twitter followers, 110,000 subscribers on YouTube, and have become the premier brand in sports betting. So thank you. We truly appreciate everyone who has supported this amazing journey. And on Thursday, January 19th, at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, all daily picks packages that day will be priced at $11, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35. And all one-day all access, normally priced at $39, will be cut in half and priced at only $19. No coupons will be needed. All handicappers at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo are included in Customer Appreciation Day. And discounts will go live at midnight, Wednesday, January 18th.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's talk some NFL divisional round action for Saturday. Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, I'm seeing KC minus 8.5 total, 52.5/53. It is a split line for the total as we speak. I like the over in this ballgame. My clients and I cashed with Jacksonville over last weekend, and I see no reason to jump off the over train. Look, they turned the ball over 5 times last week and still finished with 31 points. We've seen plenty of production down the stretch from Lawrence's receivers. The offense has balance. They scored 27 plus in more than half their games over the back half of the campaign. I believe that Jacksonville can put up a decent amount of offense here. I think they can trade points for a little while. I do not trust the Jaguars defense. All right, down the stretch, they put up solid numbers, but every time they faced a good quarterback, really since week 4, they faced the Eagles with Hurts, the Chiefs with Mahomes, the Ravens with Jackson, the Lions with Goff, the Cowboys with Prescott, and the Chargers with Herbert. They gave up more than 31 points per game. Anytime they faced a good quarterback, Herbert lit them up again last week. Patrick Mahomes had more than 300 passing yards and threw 4 touchdowns when these teams met the first time. KC 486 yards in that ballgame, and they had a 20-0 lead and fell asleep with that lead. They have a lead in a postseason game. I would expect them to continue to put the pedal to the metal. Look, KC hung 42 in each of their first 2 home playoff games last year. They hung 38 on the Bills in the postseason in 2020. They hung 51 and 35 in their 2 home playoff games in 2019. I trust Andy Reid's offensive game plan with extra time to repair, and I think the Jags have a chance to trade points with them for a while. I like KC and Jacksonville over the total. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Over the total, 2 pretty good offensive units. Not a surprise there in KC. And once again, that's the first game on Saturday, divisional round this weekend at 4:30 Eastern. Saturday, Teddy covers big game breakdown here on Wager Talk today. All right, let's bring on Tony Finn. Tony. And Tony, you'll be on the college basketball show here in about an hour and a half at 2 o'clock Eastern. So I recommend the viewers check that out for some in-depth college basketball advice. And while we have you here, we want to get a college game out of you as well. Let's go to the hardwood and talk another Big Ten battle tonight, Purdue at Minnesota. Purdue, big road favorite in this one. What you doing with it, Tony?
Oh, here's the deal with Purdue. Here's the deal with the Big Ten. I would say I wrote last week or past weekend, earlier in the week, that you have to be out of your mind to enter Big 12 play as a gamer, as a capper, as an investor, a sports investor, and lay double digits numbers in a Big Ten conference game. Let alone a game where the points you're laying are the visitors, the road team. They weren't quite double digits, guys, but I played against Minnesota. I have been playing and fading Minnesota for quite a bit. I was listening to the show, and I heard Bryan say that he thought the 2 lesser teams in the Big 12 were Minnesota and Nebraska. I think Minnesota is by a large quantity, by a large margin. It's if you look at some of their numbers and you look what they did, for instance, this will be the second time they played Purdue, guys. And the first time, it was the final score was so much closer than the game actually played out, and Purdue won by almost 20. The big man Edney had 30 and 22. I think those were the numbers. Minnesota, they cannot in any way, shape, or form match up with him. More so than anything else, this team can't shoot. They do a decent job of protecting the ball, but even in Minnesota, this Purdue team's playing well. And don't get me wrong, guys. I don't think Purdue is the best thing since sliced bread. I don't even think that they are a team that can win the national championship. But I do think they're by far the best team on the hardwood tonight in the Big Ten, and laying 14 points at 2 touchdowns on the road in a Big Ten conference game. I would say that most could write me, send me a message, say you've lost your mind, you need to check yourself in, somebody needs to commit you, that's it, et cetera, et cetera. I really like this game. Purdue played number.
So Tony Finn is not just going to be on College Hoops today. He's going to be on Cover It with Teddy Covers on SiriusXM over this weekend. Tony will be doing a College Hoops segment with me on that show as well. So you can hear the podcast version. You can download the podcast version from my Twitter, or you can listen live on channel 159 this weekend on SiriusXM. So, Tony, you said you have to be crazy to lay double digits, and then you're like, I'm laying double digits.
Yeah.
How,
like that?
And when you look at I didn't watch the first meeting, but when you look at the box score in the first meeting, it's really hard to make a case for Minnesota. They shot well, 47% from the floor. They hit 9 3-pointers. They only turned the ball over 8 times, and they were completely blown out in that ball game. It's hard to picture them shooting better or playing much better. My question is, here's Purdue coming in. I mean, I'm not going to call it a flat spot, but isn't this a weird little game? You know, they had the huge showdown against the Spartans. They're playing a team they already blew out. Oh, on deck, you know, Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, and now we just got to go and get the win up in the cold. Isn't this one of those survive and advance kind of games as opposed to we're going to annihilate this team and win by 20 kind of games?
You know, I'm not a huge trend player or a look ahead or a flat spot or whatever word or phrase that a lot of cappers use to describe a situation. But I thought about that, Teddy. I thought about it. You know, you're right. Gopher shot 58% from the field, 35 from the 3 line. So, you know, they only had total 21 rebounds in that game. Only turned the ball over 8 times and still lost by that many. That was really a pretty good game by them. In this situation, let's look at the external activity, the outcome, or extenuating circumstances. That is, you had some top teams kind of play poorly this weekend or lose, Kansas, for instance. And I think Purdue is savvy to those. I think I think they're coached well enough that they're well aware that any kind of hiccup tonight is going to affect. And is it too early to talk about seedings? I don't think so. I mean, I just don't think it is. All we do is read about it. So I think as much as I would not win an argument with you on this, I think it's something that they'll be able to come not only because of their coaching, Eddie and Steve, but because Minnesota is just not very good.
Yeah, and Tony, these teams played, of course, on December 4th. Purdue won by 19 at home, is exactly as a 19-point favorite. But what was interesting in that game was it was very high scoring, 159 points. Total was around 131.5. So it soared over the total. Both teams shot the ball extremely well. We'll see if that continues in the rematch tonight. Tony Finn likes the big road favorite, Purdue. All right, Tony, you'll be on the college basketball show in about an hour and a half, and I want to get some NBA from you as well here.
Okay.
Let's talk Sixers and Blazers. This is a late night game at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. Philadelphia at Portland. What you doing in the association?
Well, real quickly, I've been watching some of the trends and some of the things that trends, not the right word, but some of the adjustments that I think the bookmakers have been making for totals, for instance. And if you look, I think Sixers are a really good example. Maybe even a better example was a game last night, a late game last night in Denver where a number jumped way up and et cetera, et cetera. My point is Philadelphia, they're healthy. Maxey's finally looks like he's played himself back in shape after missing 3 weeks plus. Embiid's playing the best ball, I'd say the best basketball since returning from his little R&R that he seems to have every single year. But for the first, let's go back 9 games, guys. 9 games. Philadelphia didn't have a total that was over 230. Not one. And in the last 9 games, 7 of their totals have exceeded 230. They are, I think, they're 9-1, 9-2, overs to unders right now over that stretch of time. And much of this does it have to do with, should I say, Maxey's returning to health. Maxey was healthy earlier on. Embiid, they're playing together. They at one point in time, Harden, Embiid, Maxey were all healthy and playing, and their totals were sometimes in the teens, the 215s, 218s. And look at this game, and I'm not going to argue with the total tonight. In fact, I like the over tonight in this game. Everything points to the over. But at some point in time, we have to realize that adjustments are adjustments, and then there are over adjustments. And at some point, there's just some over adjustments going on in the totals in the NBA right now, and we need to start looking to when the situation arises that if you like the over, you have to just kind of turn a blind eye and play to the under or just avoid it completely. Tonight, I really like 2 things. I like Philadelphia to win this game against an important team that's 3-7 against the spread in the last 10 contests, albeit playing pretty well, 5-0. The 76ers 5-0 straight up and 3-2 against I think the previous 5 showings on the road in this trip right here. So that said, Portland sits hard times. Philly takes advantage of it tonight, and they not only win, but I think they probably put up about 130 on the Trailblazers, which would lead me to believe on the over in this contest.
So you like Philly and over tonight?
I do.
The last 4 times these teams have played, all since the 2021, none of them have gone over this number. When you look at pace ratings for these 2 teams, I got Portland number 23 and Philly number 26. I watched Philly pretty closely the other night, and their defense was outstanding during crunch time. They shut down the Clips completely. You really want to go over 233, 234 with this one?
Yeah, I do. For a couple reasons. I'm glad you bring it up today. The metrics for Philly defensively, it's surprising, isn't it? Why do we have totals of 235 and 230s with a Philly team that scores 115.2 per 100, tied for eighth in the NBA, and allow 111.4 points, fourth on, and they're holding teams, 3-point shooting teams, to 34.3% from beyond the 3-point line. It's really, pace has everything to do with totals in our world. We both know that, or all three of us know that. However, efficiency is really the key here, and the Portland defense is horrendous, and they haven't been very good lately. That's really why, like Sixers, and why I mentioned on the show that I like them to put up 130. And if 130 is scored by the Sixers tonight, this game goes over.
So I got a second follow for you on this, because we're talking total and side, and I want to ask you about the side. Because from a spot standpoint, every quote, I've been reading a lot of quotes from the Blazers lately talking about urgency. Now's the time. And they went out and laid. They had I think 2 or 3 wins in a row. And they laid. I'm not saying laid an egg in Denver, but they're not as good as the Nuggets, and they lost to Denver. Now they're returning back home where they played fairly well. You have a Philly team that, in theory, is supposed to be a little fat and happy. They've got a great road trip going. They just won back-to-backs in LA. Survived the off game from Harden. And Philly's had all kinds of problems in Portland. They have not fared well on this floor, like many teams from out east. We really want to lay with the, I'm going to ask you about the total. You really want to go over? You really want to lay with Philly tonight?
Well, I'll say this, and that is, you said a couple things in your commentary right there, and that was, Philly did what they did against a pretty good Clippers team when they're healthy and whole, right, guys? I mean, a good defensive team, put up a pretty good number, and shot pretty well from the 3 line, which they shouldn't be doing against the Clippers team not on the road. Yes, I think Harden. I look for a big game from Harden. If you're a props player and you like props, and that's all you concentrate on in the NBA, then look. Philadelphia won and convincingly in my mind, and did so with Harden scoring 6 points in that game, 6 points, and everything was single digits, and did it over a period of 20, 30 minutes. Yes, not only does he bounce back tonight, but tell me who is going to be containing, somehow holding Embiid from being a 30-15, 30-20 guy tonight against a guy who I like in the middle there in Portland. But in truth is, this defense in Portland, it's a great situation for the Sixers. This is time for them to, buckle up and go after Boston. Not only go after Boston, who I think is the best team in the East right now, even tonight without Brown maybe, but surpass them and claim that number 1 seed that they desperately need to have, not only for Embiid, but for their esteemed head coach.
That is Tony Finn, WagerTalk.com, and we talked about the Sixers' red-hot overrun. They've gone over 8 of their last 9. Portland had gone under in 8 out of 9, but then since then, they've now gone over 3 of their last 4, and their only under was their last game at Denver by a single basket, 235 versus 237 line. And, it's funny, you talk about how high this total is, guys. It's only out of 5 games on the board, it's only the 3rd highest total tonight. There's 2 games that are higher than 233.5, so that's the modern NBA that we've talked about a lot in the recent weeks, the high-scoring nature of the league now, all offense, no defense, especially this time of year. Tony, it is $11 Thursday because it's Customer Appreciation Day. Every best bet is just $11 at WagerTalk.com. Got anything special going on for Thursday?
Here's what I got. I'll just keep it short because I know you guys might be running behind because of me. But tomorrow I turn, I'm 63 years young. 63 years young, and when they asked me what I wanted for my birthday, I said, listen, this is what I want. I don't want anything, but I'd like you to give 63% off, $63 off my 7-day all access. So you can get my 7-day all access for, I think, what's the math? $36, $37 for 7 days. And it actually, the coupon that they have in the search, I think it's Spend 63, you can use for anything 7 days and larger. So if you're a gambling man, buy a year.
So that's a great special to look forward to tomorrow. Tony Finn's 63rd birthday. And if you think the over tickets cashed, those cashed a long time ago on Tony Finn's birthday. So we're not going to cash those in this year. But happy advanced birthday, Tony Finn. And once again, Teddy, every best bet, including your 5% NFL best bet, normally 35, is just 11 right now. So I recommend going to get that. And all best bets for Thursday, $11. All All inclusive, all accesses for just $19 for any capper. Mix and match. Use multiple cappers, both Sports Memo and WagerTalk.com for Thursday. And Teddy, we'll be back on Friday to do it again tomorrow.
We sure will. Same time, same channel. 9 a.m. here on the left coast. Noon for you back east. Between now and then, enjoy the games and best of luck with all of your wagers.
June 2014, WagerTalk joined Twitter. August 2014, Prez loaded the first ever picks at WagerTalk. September 2014, Marco D'Angelo and Gianni the Greek filmed the first ever video for WagerTalk TV. Fast forward to today, and we now have over 58,000 Twitter followers, 110,000 subscribers on YouTube, and have become the premier brand in sports betting. So thank you. We truly appreciate everyone who has supported this amazing journey. And on Thursday, January 19th, at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, all daily picks packages that day will be priced at $11, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $35. And all one-day all access, normally priced at $39, will be cut in half and priced at only $19. No coupons will be needed. All handicappers at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo are included in Customer Appreciation Day. And discounts will go live at midnight, Wednesday, January 18th.